You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.
So hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Changing Reality. By now, if you've watched some of our in-person episodes, you know that these are the best, these are the most fun to actually tune in for. And for all of you new viewers coming in, Changing Reality is a show where we basically interview phenomenal people from all walks of life, many of whom have spent some time here on the Penn's campus, and talk about their stories, the things that they learned along their journeys, where they started, where they are today, so that hopefully the rest of us can pick up little nuggets of wisdom that will shorten our own learning curves as we plan forward and think about where we want to head. So I'm your host for this show. My name is Harsha, and I am a student here at Penn, as well as someone who truly is a beneficiary of the power of stories and the power of, learning from people's experiences. Personally, other than being a DJ here at WQHS Radio, I also run a startup called Ascendance that has worked with over 50,000 students across 26 countries and 1,000 over communities to basically help students figure out what they love doing, run real-world projects, and actually start their own social enterprises and careers while they're still in school. And through that, I saw the transformational power of stories, of how important it is for people to actually learn from the experiences of others, and how much it helps people who have no idea what they love to get as much input and to get as much, knowledge that they can from real-world experiences. So in that same vein, I started this show here on Penn's Radio called Changing Reality, with that goal to bring that power of stories to everyone else as well. So if you have any particular industries, particular stories that you want to explore, feel free to reach out and we'll see how we can bring that on the show. But today we have an amazing guest speaker, Mr. Jay. How are you today?
Excellent. Great to be back on campus.
You are very, very inspiring. So for our audience, we have an alumni who basically has had so many brilliant experiences, I think, from the field of engineering to quant trading to the field of, healthcare investment. He was formerly a managing director at Wellington Management, and today runs his own organization, Clovelly Management, as well. So lots of experiences to talk about. So if we can dive back in, let's start off with, how is it like being in this building? You were just telling me that you were the first class to use the Huntsman building, right?
Yeah, it's exciting to be back and bring back fond memories. That I joined Wharton MBA in 2001, and I think we are the first year that actually used this building. So I think this building started in 2002. That we was in the old Advance Hall for the first year. Then the second year, this building opened up. So it's a wonderful facility. Nice to be back on campus.
Okay, so sometimes we have these in-person interviews, sometimes it's virtual. So since we're doing an in-person interview, I'll start with the hardest question in this whole interview, which is, what was your favorite memory from the Huntsman building or the Huntsman area here?
Yeah, I think it's the cafeteria, the gathering place. So we still have those folders. Everyone get the notifications and in the one. And right after that, you can walk into the cafeteria. That's a gathering place. It's a nice patio outside. So
I know it's nice. I had my breakfast there, so agreed, 100%. Food is always the most important, and the vending machines and everything. But jumping into your story and where you started. As we were talking, you have a very interesting journey yourself, all the way, even before your time at Penn doing your MBA when you were an undergrad as well. You were actually an undergrad in engineering, right? So for all our Penn engineering students, they can stand at their seats and then listen to you, this. But essentially, tell me a little bit about how you were like when you first started, your journey. You're originally from China, I think. You came over after, during undergrad to the US. Tell me about why engineering, what was going on in your mind then? And, did you have this grand plan for what's your life going to be? Do you know, okay, you're going to do all these exciting things in finance and all these different industries? Or were you just lost and confused like the rest of us today?
So in college, I don't have much idea what I want to do.
Okay, we're safe, all right.
For most typical Chinese student who's good at math, and I think engineering is a natural choice. So I was accepted into a college in China called Shanghai Jiao Tong University. So I was studying electrical engineering. And then during the college years, I think at the time, I think a lot of students want to study in the US. That's the land of freedom and hope. So I applied and was accepted into a liberal arts college in Midwest called Illinois Western University, and I was major in maths and physics for my undergrad. So I finished my undergrad in the US in a liberal arts college. And then when I was applying for graduate school, so I don't have any money, so I need a scholarship. And I was thinking of which field I can use my kind of STEM skills. And I applied a few and accepted into University of Chicago's PhD program in their medical school. So it's for doing medical imaging. So we're doing like PET scans, MRI, CT. So that's how I sort of get it started into the field outside engineering, but still using my maths engineering skills.
No, very, very cool. And, to that point of, moving halfway across the world, I myself am an international student. I'm from Malaysia. I was just talking to another international student who's a freshman in, studying this year. And she was basically telling me, it is so different moving to the US. She was like, I've been to many places, but the US is very different from everywhere I've been. How was it like for you, and especially back then you didn't have like Facebook to like talk to everyone and like connect the people ahead. So how was it like, coming in the middle of undergrad even, and then even after that, figuring out your next steps? Did you have any culture shocks, or did you, were you able to just easily, integrate into the whole undergrad community? What was your experience like as someone facing that for the first time?
I think it's full of exploration. So I think the hardest part initially is the language that English is not my native language. So I can like read okay, but like speaking and writing was very challenging for me. And so when I came here, I have a tape recorder at the time. You don't have the MP3 iPhone yet, but I have a tape recorder, and I was put on a desk for every lecture I go through. And I think one thing I feel fortunate is I came here for undergrad at liberal arts college, and so reading, writing is very critical for the education. So I got really wonderful TAs for the writing assignment, and I remember in China, I consider myself a good student. Usually get A's, but my first writing was like a D. And they say you have to rewrite it. It's not to the level. But I went to the writing TAs, for every assignment, and by the end of the class, I got like a B+. That's a pretty good accomplishment, I think, for me.
It's very relatable. I'm like super good at writing, and back at home here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to learn. So definitely agree with that point in a sense. And you're talking about graduate schools where you first kind of got into this whole world of finance and so on. So I know a lot of especially I talked to a lot of engineering students who are looking at getting into finance, and a lot of it is because they're trying to take the finance classes, they're trying to be in the right place. How did you first get the idea that you could use these engineering skills that you have in the world of finance? How did you get exposed in the first place to all of this?
Yeah, I bumped into it by accident that I was, in the PhD program in the medical school. So I have, a lot of these math stats classes. And I happen to have a roommate that who was a PhD student in the finance department. And he's also, using a lot of stats. So during dinner conversations, I talk about things I'm studying on, I'm looking at. And he talked about what he's studying, researching. And we say, we have a lot of common methodology approaches. And so he encouraged me, say, why don't you sit in some lessons, that if you are interested in this topic. So I think it's Chicago have a wonderful kind of academic research environment elective. Another one was a tax class. And it's, I think, a joint class between Wharton and the law school. And I was just randomly bumping into, I think it's interesting, just take it. And at the time, I didn't appreciate of it. But it's like in subsequent my career and my personal investing, I find it one of the most insightful classes I took at Wharton. So I think it's always, open your mind and keep the possibility open, and you never know where it leads you.
What was there's this Steve Jobs quote where he'll say you can only connect the dots when you look back, not looking forward. I think it's a very, very meaningful quote. You can only see why you took certain classes or you did certain things when it becomes useful and helpful. But as a student, it's very hard to plan that. You're like, oh my gosh, how do I do as much? How do I, try out as many things? What was your approach when you were in Wharton? Were you like, I want to try everything, or I just want to do, what's manageable? What was kind of the mindset you came in with? And how did that evolve while you were here over the 2 years?
Yeah, I think one of the things is like when you make a decision, I think you need to not just see what's directly visible, but also what possibility does it open. So that's what I call like the option theory in real life. That, because we all know what is a core option. That what I find in real life is sometimes you can see directly what's available to you in the near term, but a lot of opportunity is only when you take action that you see what's possible down the road. So I think there is a minimum requirement to get your major, to get your degree, and you always want to plan around that. But always, I think, leave some time to explore, to wonder, and you never know that something maybe a little remote, but it's interesting and intriguing and curious. You are curious, so explore that, and you may be surprised on what the possibility bring to you.
Okay, very, very, option theory in real life. Okay, we'll make all of our financial concepts, applied in real life. Okay, very, very cool.
Yeah, I think the other thing I talk a lot and I talk to my kids is this compounding interest or exponential power. I think people say, I learned this compounding interest when I was in primary school, Yeah. And everyone think they understand it. But, as Einstein said, it's probably the eighth wonder, and whoever know about it, understand it, benefit from it, and who's not understanding it, pay for it, right? So it's a truly interesting concept, and I think you will learn it at different level throughout your life. Financially, it's the most powerful force, so it's argue for investment earlier and the compound, don't let the compounding interrupt. But even in real life, I think, how to spend your time and energy. If you use this compounding concept, focus on the activities that add value long term, that build upon further. So I think, the most fundamental skills are compounding effect. The relationship are compounding effect. The networks are compounding effect. So focus your energy on these things that can compound, and you will be amazed on what's possible in the long run.
Okay, I like that. I should have paid more attention in primary school when they were teaching the compound interest equation. But okay, no, I agree with that. That's the way you invest your time, the way you invest, the energy that you have, as you said. As you were kind of, looking like post-water in a sense, and thinking, okay, what is the next thing I want to do? Because as you mentioned, this was kind of a pivot in your career. You wanted to do something a little bit different. Yeah. How did those experiences you had at Penn and Wharton kind of inform your next step in life and help you make that next decision and next transition?
Yeah, so entering into Wharton, I already know I want to be an investor because I'm fascinated by the role of an investor. You allocate a capital, and you're responsible for your decision, and you get an economic payoff for the right decisions. And I think the investor is a very leveraged career because you can deploy a lot of capital. If you have good investing, you can generate a lot of value for clients, for yourself. So I decided I want to be an investor, but which area do I focus on? I had a more quantitative investing background.
You had everything from liberal arts to engineering, everything you could choose.
And so I did a summer intern with a buy-side firm in New York, and it's Oppenheimer Capital. They are a value investor and fundamental based, and it intrigued me. So when I was interviewing for the full-time position, it happened, we have an opening up with Wellington Management, and it's one of the prestigious asset manager. And I interviewed the team, and it's a team that started by John Neff, who was one of the legendary value investor. And the investment philosophy really resonated with me because I was one of the book that influenced me when I was in MBA was a book by Seth Klarman called Margin of Safety. It's one of the legendary investor, and he have a tremendous long-term track record, but he's very private. I think not many people outside the investment field knows about him, but his record speed for the excellence that he achieved. And that book was out of print. I think I got a library reader, and I think in the Amazon you can see it's listed for over $2,000 because it's out of print.
Oh, wow.
But it has a lot of wisdom in them. And so I decided to pursue a career as an investor with Wellington. And one of the first sector assigned to me was healthcare. And over time, I kind of continue doing healthcare investing, and I become really excited and in this field. There's a couple of angles. One is unlike a lot of other investing, healthcare investing, I think, have like more matters in my mind. All these companies create, new treatment, new solutions. Without the support of the public market, they're not able to carry their task. And I feel very fulfilled that I'm not only making money for my client, but also helping these young company grow. And we can talk about some of the examples down the road. But that's one aspect. The other one I find is that the healthcare is the one area that active management can really add a value, because I think in some other areas, if the impact is very visible from the financial statement, then probably a quant can do very good job. Like a retail, if a retail is successful, you will see revenue grow, you will see return grow, you will see same store growth. All these numbers can be very easily quantified. But in healthcare, the key value creation step is the data, is the clinical trial. And during that step, I think there's not a lot of data you can crunch the number to see which one is successful. So it's like the knowledge really matters, and it shows up. One of my mentors, one of the most successful healthcare manager is Ed Owen, Jing Hines, and they pretty much in their brain have every drug of all the companies in their mind, which one was successful, which one failed, and why it's failed, which one's successful, and why it's
Wow,
successful.
Better than a spreadsheet, wow.
Yeah, so that's, I think, their competitive edge, because they have the full picture of the whole industry. And it shows up that I think that when you have that kind of knowledge map, that it's compounding. That when you have a new company doing some new thing, okay, put into the perspective, why they are different, and why they are previous company failed, they are doing different. Is it possible this one can be successful? So I think that's sort of one other thing, that it's really an area active manager can differentiate and add a value.
Yeah, and I for some reason, unknown to me, I have a lot of friends who are interested in the healthcare space, and especially how that intersects with finance and all the different elements. And one thing that that I always say is the barriers to entry is very high, because there's a lot of R&D, there's a lot of trial and error. There's like even before you get to the market, in a sense. So the investment in these companies are so important as well. Tell me a little bit about your first investment that you made, with in this new role, in this new organization, because there's so many factors you can think about, right? From the finance factors to the people factors to the potential of the product itself and the things itself. So how was your internal emotions, your way of thinking when you made that first investment and that first real decision as someone stepping into the field?
Yeah. So healthcare, as I said, it's interesting because the value creation step usually is way before the revenue and the profit. And I think a lot of the traditional metrics people use in finance, like PE or return on capital, free cash flow, these things are too late. It's like you don't see it until much later when they are successful. Yeah. So I was fortunate to have some great mentors when I was started. And one of the things that I learned is like for each industry, you want to find the metrics which are leading indicator, and preferably even leading indicator, that before everything else become visible, what other things give you a point to assess the probability of success. And in healthcare, as everyone knows, it's a very R&D driven industry. So the value is in the R&D, the innovation. But how do you assess? I think individual program, you need to know all the medical healthcare detail. That's important. But even in aggregate, I think one of the metrics that Ed Owen taught me is so-called R&D to market cap ratio. So in a high level, it's like the amount of R&D spending relative to the market cap of the company. And it's not always work, because the R&D can be spending on the wrong thing, it's turned out to be failure. So it could be a sunk cost. But if a company is continually investing a lot in the R&D, and especially relative to the market cap, maybe they have something that are special that have not become visible yet. And particularly, if you have another expert in the industry willing to put their real money on the line to support that R&D, that's give you some external validation. So one of the companies that I invested earlier and actually become, I think, jokingly supported my 2 kids into college is a company called Regeneron. And that's one of the early company I researched. And at the time, Regeneron was around like between 1 to 2 billion market cap. But they have amazing R&D platform that able to generate multiple candidates. And that platform attracted the attention of large cap pharma. So they had a deal with Sanofi.
Oh.
And at the time, the one metric on this R&D to market cap is, in a way, it's so out of line, is they spending together with the support of Sanofi around $500 million a year.
Oh.
And it's only a company with a market cap below 2 billion.
That is very close. Okay,
So
yeah.
essentially they spend so much money on the R&D, and there is little visibility on the ultimate success. But we were doing research. We talked to Len Schaffer and Georgia Kaplas, two MD, PhD, who are the founder, and we see what's their R&D program they are working on, why they think they are successful. And over time, we gain the confidence that there are a lot of potential good things happening. It's just very early. So, and because they have the partner from the large cap pharma, they already have a lot of cash on balance sheet, but also have ongoing support. So it's in a way, we think it's a very asymmetric risk reward. The worst is, the leading program failed, the stock may be down 30-50%. But they still have the third program in the pipeline. They will be surviving, I think. But the upside is, if it works, then the return is multiple. And I think I get this stock into the fund I'm working with, and then I also bought some stuff for myself, and turned out to be, now it's an over $80 billion market cap company.
Wow.
And I think one thing I'm grateful for is, as investor in an asset management firm, you need to pass compliance rules before you buy, sell. And I think multiple times it's becoming too big in the position. I want to trim some, but I was not allowed because we owned it in a large position in the portfolio. And so a small investment turned out to become a much bigger. But it's highlighting the possibility of a successful company. And I feel like, with the innovation wave, we probably in the verge of a new era. And I think a lot of people in the industry feel the same way, that we are in the age of the genomics, in the age of, starting to have real world impact from more of a experimental try and error in the previous clinical trial design into more of a precision medicine. You kind of small testing, whether the drug works or not, and then you can focus on the right patient population to design the new drug. So it's a different era, and I think the reason, the mRNA becomes so quick, that from an idea to the lab to become a commercial product, it's just showing the promise of a future. And the pan medicine is in the forefront in a lot of things. You're probably aware, the first gene therapy approved by FDA is happening here. The first CAR-T, Carl Jones lab happened here. mRNA happened here. So Penn is really in the center of this new wave of innovation.
So you really got, the best of both in that. But, talking about how things are changing now in the industry as a whole, you are still, amazingly leading in with, your clients, your people that, you kind of help with these investments and so on. What do you think is, looking to the future, what do you think for those people who want to get into this industry, who want to invest in this world in a sense, what are the major things that they should be looking at? Of course, there's always, market indicators and so on. But for someone who's fresh, who maybe is still thinking of a career in investment and specifically maybe healthcare investment as well, what are the things that they need to be aware of, they need to learn? And also, what are the skills they need to have to be able to kind of assess and understand the field?
Yeah, so I think healthcare is an amazing prospect, but it also requires so many diverse knowledges. And I think, when I talk to the successful entrepreneur management in the healthcare industry, a lot of them have advanced degrees, so not just a bachelor, a master. Many have PhDs, MDs, and so it's a field that, knowledge matters, innovation matters, and that's also require long patience because usually it takes a while to develop into a major drug. So I think in terms of the skills, I think there's a couple areas important, besides the biology, chemistry, which is the foundation that we probably need to get. But also I think some stats is important because it helps you to understand data, help you to design the trial, help you to appreciate, what are the truths versus random noise. The other thing I think really important is like a team collaboration, because this field require a broad collaboration with multiple parties, and it's also a long effort. So if you can align, with the different people with different expertise and can work together on a common goal, that's very important.
No, I would not have thought of that, but you're right, because as you said, you have the PhDs and you have the medical, and you have the people in the lab, and you have the finance and the stats and the business, and you have to have all of this over a long period of time working together and trying to understand each other. That's a very, very, interesting point. And to your experiences, you have you basically have anything an undergrad could possibly do at Penn. You have liberal arts, you have engineering, you have medical, you have finance in a sense. So you've covered all of those bases. For advice for students right now who are looking to kind of get into the field, where should they start? Where should be, what would the first thing they should be thinking about doing? Of course, they could always enroll in a class that says Healthcare Investing 101. But from your experiences of doing all of these different things, what's your advice to, those looking to get into this field? And then maybe later we can talk about those who have no idea what field they want as a whole.
I think start with the end goal. That visualize what your life career will look like 20, 30 years after you graduate. What makes you happy, what makes you proud, what are the values that you want to live your life with, and then plan back to see if I want to get to that goal, what are the different steps I'm going to be on the right path. And every once in a while, assess, are you on the right path? Are you happy with the direction? I think everyone, when they have a long-term goal, there is a sacrifice need to be made in order to build up to that. But, always make sure whatever you are doing is aligned with the long-term goal. That also not afraid to take some risks, I think, that because, a lot of people focus their near-term career choice after graduation on, which one have the more income, which one have the more near-term growth. But I think you will be surprised on if you can find the intersection of what you are good at, what the society value, and which part you can add, you have unique strengths. If you find some intersection with these different circles, you will find something that is uniquely suitable for you.
Wow, amazingly said. Well, I think our interview is coming to an end now, but I really appreciate your whole journey, all of the many things that you've done, and all the experiences and wisdom that you've shared with us. Really, any final words to our audience, as we wrap up for today?
I think one thing that impacted me is how an introvert and how a person that feel themselves to be a giver can be successful, because it always puzzles me, because initially you will see some people are very aggressive, very, take all, and in the short term, people feel like they are more successful than the people more quieter, more introvert. But one book that I want to recommend to the student is our own Adam Grant. It's one of a popular professor, and so he has a book called Give and Take, and it explores why that in the professional career that the giver actually are many of the long-term winners, and and also how to protect yourself if you are a giver from the takers, how to have a mutually beneficial relationship. So I think that's a great book. I think every student should read and then digest and think about it. And there is another one that I read recently, I also very good. It's called What's in It for Them by Joe Polish. It's essentially give a more practical advice, that for the Adam Grant. Adam Grant is more kind of academic, theoretical, although he uses a lot of examples, but it's more from the theory, like why giver can win in the long run. And this Joe Polish book is more of a practical scenario, different type scenario. How do you truly be a giver? And how can you find other people who are givers to be mutually beneficial? And how to deal with the situation, another taker in your circle, how to deal with that.
Oh, now I'm going to get the book. Okay. Wow. All right. Very interesting. So read the first one, and then, that's the theory. And then the second one, how it directly was very...
Yeah, because collectively, I think we all win together. So I always tell my two kids that don't worry about the competition, that think about value creation, and you all will collectively be stronger. And one thing I'm really proud is both my kids are now, Penn, Wharton, and my daughter just graduated this year from the Wharton and College of Science Life Science Management program. And one of the most proud thing I feel like is she got this MVP award.
Wow.
So most valuable peer, voted by his fellow classmates and the faculties. And I think she enjoyed the 4 years here. And my son's entering into this year into the MNT program, and I think he's equally impressive. So I hope they all learned a lot like me from the 4 years here.
Wow, amazing. And if the rest of us can only hope to learn your wisdom through the interview, so I assume they are far more set than the rest of us. But
thank you, and I want to congratulate you that I think you achieved a lot, have this charity impact so many people. So it's highlighted, what great things young people can do. So congratulations, and wish you continue huge impact to other people around.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. This has been Changing Reality. I will see you again next week. Bye.
You're listening to Changing Reality. Changing Reality, where we bend reality all across the world. Only on WQHS Radio.